In every society, there are some people who believe that God exists, some people who don't, and some people who are still deciding. But what do people mean by God? What is the concept of God that leads the debate about His existence? In this video, we will discuss some popularly accepted traits of God and problems related to their relevance. The all and everything conception of God. In the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity and Islam, the general idea of God is that of a perfect being who has, at any rate, three traits or qualities. 1. Omnipotence, being almighty. 2. Omni-kindheartedness, being all good. And 3. Omniscience, being all-knowing. Other normally associated traits which normally found in Hindi traditions include omnipresence, God exists, He is everywhere and He couldn't cease to exist. 2. Aseity, God's existence does not rely upon anything, God is uncaused. 3. Unchanging nature, God doesn't change. And last, eternal presence, God exists outside of time. For now on, let's focus on the first three traits only, as only those are essential to our discussion, because the later attributes are contentious. Example, someone might say, if God exists everywhere, then it automatically proves His existence. This kind of argument cannot be accepted in a debate about existence of God. So, trait 1. Omnipotence. Everyone believes God to be an all-powerful or omnipotent being. But what is the meaning of this? Renowned theologian Saint Augustine proposed that omnipotence means that God can do anything He wants. But what could God want? Can God wish for anything which is logically impossible? Example, 1 plus 1 equal to 3. Or make an object that is both round and square simultaneously. Most scholars suggest that omnipotence merely includes ability to achieve logically compatible things. And even if God's power is limited to just logical conceivable activities, there are some issues. A great conundrum examined by Islamic scholar Averroes asks whether God's power would permit God to make a stone so heavy that He Himself couldn't lift it. The catch is this: if God can make such a stone that He Himself couldn't lift it, then He isn't all powerful, and there would be something which will be beyond God's power. Or otherwise, if God can make this stone, then God isn't omnipotent, since this is something He cannot do. Responses to this conundrum are varying among scholars, but most of them have concluded that creating the stone is not logically correct, as the stone is described as something which can and cannot be lifted, thus a contradiction and or impracticality. Trait 2. Omni-kindness. Omni-benevolent might mean that a being who is perfectly righteous, kind, fair and loving, and not cruel, malicious person who causes or allows unnecessary violence. Omni-benevolent is someone who never does anything wrong. But the question is God unable to do anything wrong, or can an omni-kind choose to be cruel even He never chooses to be? Again, the catch is, if God is unable to do anything wrong, then is there any meaningful sense in God's goodness? Understand this from a human perspective. Suppose there are two people, Ram and Shyam. Ram is kind and generous because he thinks that's the right way to live, even when he forced to act cruelly. Shyam, on the other hand, is kind and generous because he literally cannot be any other way. He cannot do wrong even he is forced to do so. Who is better here? People who think Ram is better will deny God's goodness as irreproachable, cannot be argued due to this literal inability to do bad. People who think Shyam is better will deny the assumption that freedom to do anything is an essential element while judging the goodness of anyone. According to them, God could be similar to Shyam without any scarcity in goodness. Euthyphro dilemma. Along these lines, there is a very similar puzzle found in Plato's dialogue, in which Socrates asks Euthyphro, does God do what is good because it is good, or is whatever God does is good because God does it. Here the first notion makes God subjected to an independent concept of goodness to which even he has to follow. The second notion, on the contrary, implies that God, whatever God wishes is automatically good. So if God wishes for something bad, even that would turn out to be good. Trait 3. Omniscience. Omniscience is usually described as knowing it all there is to be known. Things get complex in any case when we consider whether God knows the truth about future, and assuming this is the case, how this bears on our free will. For instance, if God knows that you are going to fail in your semester exams, then it appears that it eliminates the possibility that you are free to pass the exam with preparation. Scholars vary in their responses too. Still, according to their belief, we have our free will irrespective of whether anyone, including God, knows about our future or not. So in conclusion, I want to say that suggested traits may stir up some difficult questions. However, attention to these points can help make a discussion about nature and presence of God more productive. And also, this can make our understanding more clear about in what kind of God people believe to exist, people who do not believe to exist, and people who are still deciding. Thank you.